it's Louise here. We're just going to have a quick chat today about blood sugars and how they can impact our hormone health and our thyroid health. So a lot of people don't realise that they may have a blood sugar issue. So it's really interesting when you start looking at some of the indicators that it could show, as well as that we actually need to balance our blood sugars, because if we don't have balanced blood sugars, we have a lot of issues with our cortisol. So sometimes we wake up at night, you can feel really hungry or anxious or just have sleeping problems, can be an indicator. Having belly flat, we've talked about that, so above the belly button and below the rib cage. We've also, so another really one that's come up a lot is urination, and that's actually having to urinate or pee a lot, and especially through the night. And it's not about being able to wake up, pee and go back to sleep. It's just about getting up multiple times and urinating, because that usually tells us that there is an adrenal issue kicking in, and also a blood sugar issue. That you crave carbs and sweets. Some people are salty and some people are sweet, so usually carbs and sugars is a big indicator. You get hangry. Who gets hangry? It's like, I'm so hungry, I'm just gonna... So I tend to find that can be a big keynote for me as well. Constantly tired. Now, a lot of my girls tell me that they have extreme fatigue. Now, Hashimoto fatigue is very, very different. Hypo fatigue is very different to that. I am just tired all the time. But if you have sugar, you perk up, and it lasts a while before you're crashing in. But Hashis and hypo, it is slightly different. It's actually a lot different. Let's get real here. Being constantly tired, so that's it. Having brain fog, so brain fog and also anxiety can be really big indicators that there are blood sugar issues kicking in. And if you've got more than two of those, it's a pretty big indicator. So we always look at that, and I look at that pretty much all the time in clinic, whether it's your first appointment or a follow-up. So what can we do? So let's have a look. So let's go through some of the indicators of why it may be there. So we've talked about low blood sugar and cortisol levels. So that's our fight flight. So we utilize glucose so we can run from tigers, pretty much. But when we don't have enough of it, we catabolize other stuff in our body. But we also can lead to adrenal fatigue, anxiety, and further mood issues. If our blood sugars are way too high, now I'm not talking about diabetics blood sugars, I'm talking about within range, but they're on the higher side. And if they stay too high, then our body's unable to uptake that glucose in the blood, and the insulin grabs it and then takes it into the cell. So if it's high for a long period of time, it's unable to do that. So we get insulin resistance, and that also contributes to type 2 diabetes. It also exacerbates the inability to lose weight, so you become weight loss resistant. Now, I do see that in a lot of hypo women and a lot of Hashimoto's women, is that resistance to weight loss, and it really has to be about balancing blood sugars first. It can be exacerbated in PCOS, so PCOS, especially when there are 5 different types of PCOS. So if it's androgen driven and it's that blood sugar driven, then that is something that needs to be worked on straight away. We can also look at poor assimilation of our essential fatty acids. That can be another big one. And high blood sugar often goes hand in hand with higher estrogen, and that's that estrogen-progesterone balance as well. So if you get a lot more estrogen in relation to the progesterone, there tends to be a lot more sugar dysregulation issues kicking in there as well. So it is a really big deal. A lot of people go, oh yeah, I have chocolate in the afternoon, or I have a coffee and I need cake, or oh no, it's really healthy, it's a muffin, but it's still carbohydrate. And so we have to look at the cycles through the day and to why it's happening, how frequently it's happening. Are you getting the highs with it? Are you getting the crashes with it? Are you sleeping? Do you still have all those symptoms that you had when you came to see me, or all those symptoms of PMS and hormonal issues, or your thyroid's not getting any better, or you've got Hashimoto's and you're going, why can't I get on top of all of this? So let's have a look at some of the things, like I mentioned having the afternoon snack, but what else can really imbalance your blood sugars? Now, drinking coffee. Now, I have mine, see, it's still here. And I have been trying to drink that probably for the last 2 hours. So for some people, coffee can be a really big one that imbalances your blood sugars, especially if it affects your adrenals. So coffee is metabolized in our liver. So you either can do it or you can't. And some can go, oh, I can drink 10 cups of coffee and I'm fine. But we'll check and see if there's a blood sugar issue there. But some will go, I can drink one, I'm frazzled like a leaf, I just can't do it. And then you go, yeah, coffee's not good for you. So sometimes there's a nice balance in between, and sometimes there just isn't. And sometimes it can be the one and only thing that you need to reduce or stop, which actually balances your blood sugars for you and helps reduce that adrenal fatigue. Fasting. Now, I'm not a really big fan of fasting, especially when you've got hypothyroidism and or Hashimoto's. I've looked at intermittent fasting. I've looked at eating blocks. Eating blocks is different to fasting, but I tend to find that fasting elevates your morning cortisol, and we don't want a huge lump of cortisol. Hi, Sheree. So we want to balance it, but we certainly don't want spiking it. But the other one that's actually really good is your eating block. So if you eat, say, at 8 a.m. in the morning and you finish at 6 p.m. at night, so that's your eating block, and you don't eat outside of that time. So that can be a form of fasting. It's just you fast from dinner to breakfast. And depending on how healthy and well your hormones are going, or how well your thyroid's managing, or how well you're on top of your Hashimoto's, you can actually shrink that block. But that takes a lot of time to be able to get there, and it also takes a lot of management to make sure that you're eating all the right foods in that eating block. Otherwise, it's going to mess with your blood sugars, it's going to mess with your adrenals, and you'll probably find that you can gain weight rather than lose weight. Not getting enough sleep. I harp on about this one all the time, and we have, some of us will sleep 10 hours a day, sometimes more, some will sleep 5 hours a day, but we really need that nice balance in the middle between about 7 to 8 hours is a good restful sleep, and the more hours before midnight, the better. So if you get more before midnight, you're better off, so that's equivalent to 2 hours after midnight. So I have quite a few who'll be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but they go to bed at like about 8 o'clock in the evening. So that can make a big difference. Now, alcohol is another huge one that spikes your blood sugars. Now, unfortunately, women in my age group, so anywhere from 45 to 60, are the biggest drinkers. Statistically now, we are the biggest drinker. And I don't drink alcohol because it messes with me badly. But it is one of those things that just, goes, oh, I had a glass of wine after work, or I had 3 beers after work, or a couple of gin and tonics after work, just to chill out. But it actually messes with your blood sugars, it dysregulates your sleep, it turns off your digestion, and so it's really not the best thing to do, not every single day of the week. And then I tend to find there's a lot of binging happening on the weekends as well. So we tend to limit and go one every couple of days, or one or two over the weekend, and that can really help balance those blood sugars for you. Also, we're looking at reducing carbohydrate, like packaged foods, so high amounts of packaged food. So we aim for eating a lot more vegetables, a lot more meats, proteins that don't come in a package when you have no idea what's actually in them. So sorry about the itchies today. We also work on mineral balance, so making sure that there's your acid alkaline balance is working well, because if that's not, you're not going to digest and your blood sugars will go a little bit crazy. Gut health is a biggie, so making sure that you're actually able to digest your foods and absorb your foods. So that's a really big one. We are what we eat, but it's actually what we absorb. And if we're not absorbing the nutrients to regulate our blood sugars, it's not going to happen either. Managing stress is another really biggie. I suck at this one. out of all of these, this is probably my biggest one. And really managing stress is huge, because it keeps you in that fight-flight place. And if you stay in that fight-flight place, which is your sympathetic nervous system, your blood sugars are all over the place. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. You go, whee, you got to run. Even though you're not running anywhere, your body still believes that it is. So managing stress is huge, and you do whatever it takes to manage it, whether it's sitting in the sun. It's beautiful today in the sun, as long as you're not in the breeze or there's shade around. But sitting in the sun is excellent. Going for a walk is fantastic. Meditating, it can be. But meditating can be really frustrating for so many. So do a walking meditation. So actually moving and meditating at the same time. You go, how the hell do you do that? It's that rhythmic pattern that you get into when you walk, and your mind, basically it steps sideways. So you're very consciously aware of where you're at, but you're also in a very calm state, and that makes a really big difference. So stress is huge. It does regulate those blood sugars. It also helps you sleep better at night. Eating low fat, really bad. I can remember the days we were taught to, fat was bad for us. Fat gave us cardiovascular disease. Fat was just awful. And it's crazy, because fat does so much. We can actually go into a ketosis state and burn fats rather than sugars. Now, it has to be done slowly, and it has to be done right. And it doesn't mean all you eat is fats and proteins. It is pretty much still about 80% vegetables. So doing keto properly is a really good thing. But if we don't have our good fats, it throws our blood sugars out all the time. So as you can see, blood sugars are really huge when it comes to balancing our hormones, balancing our thyroid. So that's our endocrine system. So what can you do today that you can start? And it's a small little thing. Is it changing what you have for afternoon tea? Is it eating when you in the morning, rather than going, oh, I'm not really hungry till about 11 o'clock in the morning? Maybe it is about eating something at about 8 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't have to be big, but it's about breaking your fast. Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's really looking at what time you go to bed at night. Maybe it's about eating more vegetables in your diet. Or maybe it's about trying to reduce your stress and doing something for that. So let me know. I'm really curious to know what you think is going to be the easiest thing to do. I know what I find easy in this, and I know what I find really hard. And I know we go for the easy ones first, but that's good. Do something that's easy. It's really difficult to go and do something that's really, and you go, oh, really, I can't do that one. But pick one that you can do, because stabilizing your blood sugars makes a huge difference, not just to your weight and your mental health, but to the health of your hormones. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I can't wait to see the questions, because I'll answer them for you. Take care and have an awesome day. See ya.